Priye Vanchakalpa Tirubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Titanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Dibyadbindiranya Kalpajrumada Śrimad Ratnagara Singha Sanasto Śrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Kristalabhi Savyamano Smarami. The verse once again. The demigod said, Dear Lord, formerly when there was a devastation, you conserved all the different energies of material manifestation. At that time, all the inhabitants of the higher planets, represented by such liberated souls as Sanaka, were meditating on you by philosophical speculation. You are therefore the original person, and you rest in the water of devastation on the bed of the Sesha snake. Now today you are visible to us. We're all your servants. Please give us protection. So all the different personalities are offering their prayers to Lord Vishnu, who has made his appearance in the sacrifice performed by Prajapati Daksha, keeping in mind that there was great disturbance and, let's say, highly undesirable activities performed in that yajna. We heard in a previous verse, in the prayers of Bhrigu Muni, that in the purport, Prabhupada said that Bhrigu Muni was conscious of the scandalous activities of each and every one of them. Unless one comes to the point of full devotional service and complete Krishna consciousness, in other words, serving Krishna completely favorably for his satisfaction without any ulterior motive, then there is danger and all likelihood for there to be disturbance and unrest. So the demigods, as they're grouped or described here, many different personalities who were also demigods are offering their prayers, but here it simply says, the demigods said. And they are giving a known understanding of the glory of the Lord in terms of his maintenance of the cosmic manifestation, the particular universe that the demigods are situated in. Dear Lord, formerly when there was a devastation, you conserved all the different energies of material manifestation. And Prabhupada, in his first paragraph in the purport, describes this as the partial devastation of the lower planets within the universe when Lord Brahma goes to sleep. So after a day of Lord Brahma, so in terms of Lord Brahma's life, just like our life, sunrise to sunset is not a considerable amount of time, not a long period of time. But for us, the residents of this universe, it's a very, very long period of time. Prabhupada writes in one place that one should be conscious of all these different devastations, just like one is or should be conscious of the impending of old age, disease, and death. One should be conscious of these things to help one become sober and utilize one's time properly and perform activities which will be useful and beneficial to help one transfer to a better next life at the time of one's death. that the Lord is the conserver of all energies, even when there's a devastation. When there's devastation, is very, very comforting to know. People have, without Krishna consciousness, without God consciousness, without any devotion, without any knowledge, they have no idea what will happen after the devastation of their body. There's all different types of speculative scenarios. What will happen if there's nuclear war, if this planet is destroyed, post-apocalyptic world. So the demigods, they conclude, after describing how the Lord is worshipped and meditated upon by great personalities. He's mentioning one of the four Kumaras, Sanat Kumara, meditating on you by philosophical speculation. Those who are not approaching the Lord through devotional service can have a very small, partial, or brief, temporary darshan or vision of him, and even then it is open to their interpretation and speculation because of not approaching in the correct way. They're saying, now today you are visible to us. For the devotee, the Lord is visible at all times. Please give us protection. The demigods depend on the protection of Vishnu. They are not independent. So now Prabhupada goes on to stress and emphasize the very important point, which Krishna himself does in the Bhagavad Gita, particularly, condemns the worship of demigods because there is no need of it. This is a very good point. This is the first point that Prabhupada makes about why worship of the demigods is condemned. There's no need for it. And Prabhupada will develop the point. Clearly states that only those who have lost their sense go asking favors of the demigods. Generally, if anyone has material desires to be fulfilled, he can ask Vishnu instead of going to the demigods. This is described by Shukadeva Goswami in the second canto. Whether one has all material desires, no material desires, desires liberation, by all means, in all situations, one should approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who worship demigods are not very intelligent. Besides that, the demigods say, "We are your eternal servants." So, here this is kind of lip service. Better than saying something, prove it and do it. Or what is that saying? Actions speak louder than words. So they say, "We are your eternal servants." And Prabhupada says, so those who are servants and devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with fruitive activities, the performance of prescribed yajnas, or mental speculation. They simply this going on and off that I have to call it out. This material world is so created that one has to act sinfully, knowingly or unknowingly, and unless his life is dedicated to Vishnu, he has to suffer all the reactions of sinful activities. But one who surrenders and dedicates his life to the service of the Lord has direct protection from the Lord. One time, a challenger asked Srila Prabhupada, "What's it like to be you?" Can you imagine having such audacity to address the pure devotee in that way? And Prabhupada, not in the slightest bit being shaken from his monumental gravitas, paused and simply said, if anybody would say this, what would it mean? But when such a personality as the pure devotee of the Lord, Shaktivesh Avatar, says this, it strikes everybody to the core of their heart. He simply said, "I have no fear." Everyone in this material world is afraid all the time. Even though they brazenly won't admit it, or when they're told like that, they'll simply try to laugh it off. That's symptomatic of the age of Kali Yuga. Everyone is always lying and trying to hide the truth through various types of trickery and maneuvering. A pure devotee who is completely protected by Krishna, he's fearless. His parents named him that at the time of his birth. And Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, not wishing to change that which was already perfect, from Srila Prabhupada's loving parents, especially Srila Prabhupada's father. Prabhupada lost his mother only at the age of 14. Improved upon perfection, if that can be done. In the spiritual world, it can be done. Abhay Charanara Vinda Das. One who is fearless, having taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. Everyone was just like, and the devotees, the disciples, Prabhupada gave them the ability, at least for that moment, to understand truly what it means to be without fear. And that ribald challenger was shaken to his core. In today's meditation, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Mangal Arti, this was taken from the teachings of Srila Rupa Goswami by Lord Chaitanya. And it is interesting to note we were saying previously that there are many verses in Bhagavad Gita and especially Śrimad Why does this do this on and off? several times. Same as yesterday, 2 out of 3 digits. So this is a verse from Nectar of Devotion. See, Lord Chaitanya is teaching Rupa Goswami, and then Rupa Goswami writes the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which everything Rupa Goswami has written is based on what he was taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what we heard from Srila Prabhupada a few years previously in Nectar Devotion, which was completed in 1970, this is now 1974, Anyabhilasita Sunyam, Jnana Karmarya Navritam, Anukulyena Krishna no Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. See, here's the translation. Notice the slight difference. When first class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires. And Prabhupada I'll read the whole translation, and it's very interesting to note, we'll come back to this, what Prabhupada has done in the word-for-word translations. One must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy, and fruit of action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. So, Anyabhilasita Sunyam, and when it gets to the word-for-word translation, for the word simply jnana, Prabhupada translates this as by the knowledge of the philosophy of the monist Mayavadis. Then with a little star, here, jnana does not refer to perfect knowledge and devotional service. One has to learn the path of devotional service with full knowledge of the Vedas. Bhaktya Shruti Vihitaya. Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Verse 12. Purport. This verse is also found in Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. As we can understand from the Bhagavad Gita, 934, and 1865, the Supreme Personality of Godhead wants everyone to think of Him always. Who is the topmost Vaishnava? What is the symptom? That simply by seeing Him, and that includes hearing Him, even after the pure devotee so-calledly departs the planet, I live forever in my teachings, and the follower lives with me. That they can think of Krishna, and even more, they begin to chant the holy name. This is direct empowerment from Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is showing emblematically what is or who is the topmost devotee. Krishna coming as a devotee to teach everyone how to be devotees. So the teacher of all levels of students is certainly on the highest level of knowledge and perfection. Otherwise, what is their qualification to be a teacher? Everyone should become his devotee, not the devotee of a demigod. Everyone should engage in his devotional service. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru. Everyone should offer obeisances from moment to moment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Engaging in preaching, particularly and especially book distribution, you are offering obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead moment to moment, because you are engaged in a very confidential relationship with Antaryami in the heart of every living entity. That is what makes that service so dynamic and transcendently robust. We're not approaching, whatever you want to categorize people, this one, that one, this, that, the other thing. We calculate that, but that's secondary to the fact that they are part and parcel of Krishna. And Krishna has a desire for that person to serve him. And we, on behalf of the Lord, can act as the emissary, an ambassador to the sacred realm of bhakti, the place where they really belong, back home, back to Krishna, and come out of this material hell. These are the desires of the Supreme Lord, and one who fulfills his desires favorably is actually a pure devotee. Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto him, and devotional service means preaching this gospel all over the world. The Lord says openly in the Bhagavad Gita, 1869, Nachatasman Manusheshu Kashchan Me Priya Kritamaha. One who preaches the gospel of the Bhagavad Gita for the benefit of all is most dear to Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord so that human society can be perfectly organized from all angles of vision. Be thou happy by this yajna, because by its performance all desirable things will be bestowed upon you. And Prabhupada gives us 5 very important categories of that which is desirable for all human society, for all living entities, politically, socially, economically, philosophically, and religiously. From any point of view, human society can be reformed. It's not a maybe. It's not a possibility. It's a fact. It can be reformed. Reformed. That reform means it's not in the form which is desirable at the present time. By the Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, one who spreads this philosophy of Krishna consciousness for the benefit of all conditioned souls in the universe is perfect in pure devotional service. Or we can say the facility or what preaching Krishna consciousness facilitates is one's perfection. The criterion is that a devotee must know what Krishna wants him to do. Prabhupada says, give me a glass of water. He doesn't want a glass of milk. Milk is nice, but he doesn't want it now. He might take milk at a different time. This understanding can be achieved through the medium of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati are teaching by their example what it means to favorably serve Krishna in this so-called modern age. They expose the false devotees claiming high realization and monopolizing the devotional facilities in sacred places, especially places like Radhakund and Shyamakund. Prabhupada said, we've been told by the Babajis of Vrindavan that there's no need to preach. One should simply chant the holy name in a secluded place. Such personalities are to be criticized because they are not acting on behalf of what Krishna wants. Srila Rupa Goswami advises Adao Guru Ashrayam, one who is serious in wanting to render pure devotional service to the Lord must take shelter of a spiritual master who comes in the disciplic succession from Krishna. Srila Prabhupada instructed his contemporary godbrothers what it really means to overcome the prejudices of caste and birth discriminatory considerations. And to truly understand how much the Supreme Personality of Godhead could not care less about someone's so-called caste and division or previous sinful standing in terms of the ability and facility to not only take to bhakti, religious life, but achieve perfection based on the sole qualification of one of the individual's sincere desire to have it. There is no other qualification considered by the Lord. That is why Srila Prabhupada is Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada means the name, the master at whose feet all other masters sit, meaning they all have something to learn, or their knowledge of how to please the Lord is insufficient compared to that knowledge and perfection of the Prabhupada. Without accepting a bona fide spiritual master coming in the disciplic succession, one cannot find out the real purpose of devotional service. In answers by citing the Lord's version, the epic chapter 9 of the second canto, wherein the Chatur Shloki Bhāgavatam makes its grand appearance. Of course, this is Krishna instructing Lord Brahma. We have the beautiful painting, which is there in the second canto, and now it's on the cover of our for-distribution Brahma Samhita. Prabhupada says in one place in the purport there that one should not think that one is as qualified as Lord Brahma to be directly initiated by Krishna. But one can have the same facility if one approaches the current link in a disciplic succession. The more one becomes the servant of the servant, the more one's devotion is counted as deeper, intense, and real. I am a servant of these 6 Goswamis, and the dust of their lotus feet is my 5 kinds of foodstuff. This is Narottam Das Thakur, who is in the disciplic succession of the Goswamis. He's particularly initiated by Lokanath Goswami. Sometimes it is described that there are 8 Goswamis, because before Rupa and Sanatan and the others were sent to Vrindavan and authorized by Lord Chaitanya that their place of residence at Prabhupada Desh is Sri Vrindavan Dham, Lokanath Goswami and Bhugarbha Goswami went there first previously. But we see in the case of Narottam Das Thakur that he also received very important shiksha from the youngest of the 6 Goswamis, the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan, Jiva Goswami. So one who becomes the servant of the 6 Goswamis, Prabhupada says, is considered even more devoted. Therefore, one has to accept the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and agree to be directed by him. The first business of a pure devotee is to satisfy his spiritual master, whose only business is to spread Krishna consciousness. Or, the qualification of the pure devotee. Who is the bona fide spiritual master? Who is the pure devotee? Here Prabhupada says, his only business is to spread Krishna consciousness, not to exploit the resources of his followers. One should not accept a disciple because that disciple will make me famous, will make me rich, influential. This is an offense in the line of the disciplic succession. And if one does like that, then one will degrade oneself. There's strict warning against these things. So 2 things simultaneously. Who is the bona fide spiritual master? And equally, if not more important, who is the bona fide disciple? We see in the case of Lokanath Goswami and his reluctance, even being ordered by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to accept Narottam Das Thakur's disciple. And Narottam Das Thakur is overcoming Lokanath Goswami's very deep and sincere humility and feeling of disqualification, ultimately showing one of the most beautiful examples of spiritual master and disciple. Some 300 or 400 years later, a similar case, an astounding example of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati and Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji. Perhaps the greatest scholar and erudite, intelligent mind on the planet, knowing that unless he took initiation from someone who was seemingly illiterate by comparison, then his life was spoiled. These things are inconceivable to mundane speculation, trying to figure it out. But it illustrates the supreme beauty of devotional service in the principle that Krishna himself wants, and even he himself, Krishna, he accepts Sandipani Muni as his spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the spiritual master of the entire everything, he's accepting discipleship under a spiritual master, Srila Ishvara Puri. And if one can satisfy the spiritual master, Krishna is automatically satisfied. Yasya prasadat Bhagavat prasad. This is the success of devotional service. This is the meaning of the word anukulyena, that is, favorable devotional service to the Lord. A pure devotee has no plans. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. He has no plans other than those for the Lord's service. He is not interested in attaining success in mundane activities. He simply wants success in the progress of devotional service. For a devotee, there cannot be worship of others or demigod worship. A pure devotee does not engage himself in such pseudo-devotional service. He is interested only in satisfying Krishna. If one lives only for the satisfaction of Krishna, it does not matter whether he belongs to this order of life or that order of life. One's only business should be to satisfy Krishna. This process is completely manifest in the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement. So this movement, begun by Srila Prabhupada, is based upon, is completely filled with the activities of pure devotional service. It has been actually proved that the entire world can accept devotional service without failure. He built a house in which the whole world can live. One simply has to follow the instructions of the representative of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Deva Ki Jai. And Narada Muni bailed